Hi, this is a tour of how to make a secure Scuttlebutt plugin for a friend. So here's the anatomy of a minimal secure Scuttlebutt plugin. It just needs to be an object which has a name and an init function. So what you can put inside that init function, well, first off, it gets two arguments. One is the SSB instance, which is it's just an object which has all of these different API methods attached to it. So for example, we can call ssb.publish. So I'll show you how this plugin is plugged into things a little bit later, but we can do stuff like this. So I've written a little thing which confirms that it started up, but here you can see it publishing, and it's published this message with the startup and when it was starting up. So that's kind of okay. We can look at what else is on there. And you'll see all of these different methods. So publish, who am I, create history stream, these are some of the common ones. There isn't currently that much installed on this SSB instance. Like SSB friends isn't installed here. We can come back to that in a moment. So what else can we do? So often you want to you want to return some function that you might want to use later. So that's why I was messing around with pull and pull stream. So SSB create history stream. You might want to take in a particular ID. So what are we going to call it? Function list startups. And we only care about the startups of this thing. So we might want to make this take a callback, pull dot collect that callback. We might want to filter just for those messages. So this is really crude. You would do a better query with Flume queries if you're using SSB DB1, or some other queries with DB2 if you're using those. But for the moment, let's just dump the whole database out and go, I just care about the messages which have startup, because there might be other things in there as well. So then I could go, let's just run that for the moment, list startups, and we'll just run it for the moment, see how it goes. And there's all the different startups that have happened. It's maybe not that useful. Let's do some mapping as well. Maybe say we just want the times that the startups happened. And let's go even further. Yeah, so here's the different startup times that have happened. So that could be a function. So how do we expose that function so that it's more useful? So this is where I want to show you a little bit about how you use plugins. So all SSB server is, if you've been using that, is secret stack with an opinionated set of plugins installed. So secret stack is a module which manages plugins coordinating with one another and remote RPC calls to other peers, sort of secure connections, all those sorts of things. So running through the different parts of that, there's this thing called CAPS. So SSB CAPS, this is just a convenience module which records the capabilities. So the mainnet of Scuttlebutt uses a particular secret handshake key. Aho, which is a different application, uses a different network key, and this means that peers, only peers who have that secret network key will be able to engage in a successful secret handshake. So we start up the stack with those caps. Worth noticing, this is Secret Stack version 6. I think I was just messing around with it. There's been some changes, breaking changes up until version 8. And I'm just familiar with this setup, so I just use this. Yes. Anyway, so after that, you install plugins by just going .use, and you chain these .use. So we would probably go .use. So at the moment, this installs the database, which installs the method publish, and some other things like create history stream. So this is using SSBDB. You could use SSBDB2. You would also want to add some sort of replication and some sort of connection management. So those are the two latest incarnations of those. Previous ones were called things like gossip and replication. I may have got those around the wrong way for there, but let's say those two. So this is short for epidemic broadcast trees. This is replication management. This is connection management. So managing the lists of peers that you would want to connect to and cycling through them in an appropriate pattern. And this is once you connect to peers, how is it that you're gossiping with them, connecting with, requesting updates, sending updates, those sorts of things. So the other common ones that people install are SSB Friends, and we're going to have a look at that as an example of a module which manages people following and blocking and that sort of thing, and yeah. Anyway, so common for you to install a bunch of different plugins, and here we are installing our Custodisco plugin. Once you've got the stack set up, you turn it on by giving it a config. So this config here is just the simplest, absolute simplest config. There is another convenience plugin called SSB config, which has a bunch of sensible defaults, but we don't need them too much. This is like where it should put the database, where it sort of expects to store all sorts of things, and keys is the encryption keys that we're starting everything up with. So this is where this is it turned on, but you might want to do something like list, what did I call it? List startups. So let's call the call that out there. Interested to see if this works. There may be one more thing we need to do. Yeah, that's it. That's it working. So we have, so with this we've, you'll notice that the methods that we return, or the functions that we return in this object that comes out of init, those are installed under a name. That name was the name of the plugin, so it's really important that you choose a name that's camel case, no spaces, and then just the name of the plugin off the end. So I think those are the basics. There is one other field that you'll sometimes see quite often, is this manifest. So this is particularly important if you're calling, if you're wanting to expose these methods as RPC calls that another peer is allowed to call. and that could be you making an SSB client connection, for example. So it could be a remote, but also using your own key or something like that. So so in the manifest we define the functions which are made available for remote process calls, and we do stuff like that. So so yeah, there are a couple of modes. We could make one called stream startups, and that could be a source. So there are two main types that you'll see. One of them is async, and that's like a callback type functions, and sources are pull streams. So if I was to write that, this would be something like stream startups. Terrible names. You'd have to return it, and it would be something like, you probably want it to be live true, but it doesn't have to be live true. You could go so it could be a live stream or a non-live stream. Stream startups. So let's do that. I can't be bothered calling it here because I'd have to put pull stream in here. But yeah, hopefully that's a sufficient intro. I did want to show you what SSB Friends looks like, just to show you that there's nothing really magical going on here. So SSB Friends, let's look at the parts of it. It's got a name called Friends, it's got version. Here's a manifest of functions which are returned, so follow. Let's look at that. Oh, so here down the bottom, returning all of these functions. Function follow. Follow is a function which takes a feed ID, some options, and a callback, and it just publishes a message, which is a follow message. Yeah. So these plugins can get quite complex. In Aho, we use them for all sorts of things. Like, for example, I wanted to make an HTTP API so that you could talk to serve a web page locally, for example, and that might serve blobs, or it might serve static HTML that's been built, or it might serve a GraphQL API. So I've used plugins to start servers as well. Yeah. So a server that's spinning up servers. Yay. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know if you have any questions.